Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
All right, dude. Well, I don't know exactly how you want to launch this whole little political thing we want to do.
Obama sucks, and I hope he's... No.
Yeah. I don't know how you want to start this, but I want to give you guys an example of what I'm looking for. I don't want opinion. I want facts. Now, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that my personal favorite politician, James Traficant, who was a representative from the Youngstown, Ohio area. Basically, in my opinion, I don't know the facts. I am going to state opinion here. I'm sure he wasn't pure as the driven snow, as it were, but I'm sure that some of the charges that he went to jail for were probably trumped up because he speaks his mind and he doesn't back down and he doesn't play the game, as it were. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, if you never heard of this guy, go over to YouTube and type in James Traficant, Traficant. Some of you may or may not know who he is. But I happen to be a fan, and he speaks his mind, and here's how I want this little political thing to go. Okay. This is James Traficant talking about a hotly debated thing that it was very hotly debated all the way into last year, or late last year, as some of you may or may not know if you're paying attention. The evil Batman would know because they have been... The U.S. government has been erecting a fence along the Mexican border.
Really? How did evil Batman get past it?
I don't know. I think that's his superpowers, and his wings and his batarang got him over the fence, and he had no problem.
Climb the wall with his batarang?
Yes. So here's James Traficant talking about illegal aliens.
All right.
So, and then I'm going to pick up and tell you how I kind of want to go with this here.
Okay.
So this is him on the congressional floor talking about illegal aliens.
And I have a lot of Hispanics mad at me. And I think Ms. Sanchez is a great member. But yes, I voted for Mr. Dornan. Because I thought we set up an illegal precedent by allowing possible illegal immigrants to vote in the federal election, and I voted with Mr. Dornan. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Now, since then, I think you have been an excellent member. If you've been offended by that, I'm sorry. And I also want to say this. I urge you to put our troops on our border. And I think anybody who jumps the fence shouldn't be made a citizen. They should be thrown out. And you're going to be dealing with Homeland Security. And I'm saddened to my heart. I can't vote on it.
All right, so there you go. Mm-hmm. Now, the debate here has been, and I've been watching, obviously watching the news, and I even see Paul, what was his, what's that comedian who had his own TV show?
Paul Reiser?
No.
Paul Giamatti?
No, it's not Paul.
You said Paul.
I know. I was thinking somebody else. What's that? He's a real popular guy, Mexican comedian, and had his own TV.
Louis C.K.?
No, his own TV show.
Louis C.K. had a TV show.
No. Popular network.
Oh, George Lopez.
Yeah, George Lopez recently has a HBO special that was basically filmed maybe a month ago.
Okay.
It's on HBO. So every time I hear somebody bring up putting a fence on the border,
yeah,
you always hear these naysayers going, well, that's racist, that's anti-Mexican, that's a racist thing to do. But here we go with the whole facts. Fact is that they estimate that there's approximately 12 million, quote unquote, illegal, or if you want to put it in politically correct terms, undocumented people in this country.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So the argument is, well, these people are here, quote unquote, making money for their families because Mexico is a poor country and they're doing jobs that people in the United States will not do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that might be a fact, but that's not the issue. The issue is we've got 12 million people in this country that we have no idea who they are, where they've come from. They're undocumented.
Right.
You know, they're using U.S. resources, be it medical care, earning money here, not paying taxes, all these things. It's not a racial thing.
No.
And then they go, well, they're not putting a fence on the border of Canada. Well, Canada is a prosperous country, and we don't have a lot of Canadians coming across the border in the millions.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to make this a racial issue. And it's not a racial issue. It's just that we have a system of immigration in this country, and if they want to come here, there's nothing to stop them from coming through legal channels to become a citizen, and wait like everybody else from any other country in the world.
Right, sure.
So that drives me personally crazy when I hear people saying, well, these Mexicans, they're just here to do jobs that people here won't do, and, they need to earn a living. And listen, I agree with all that, but if they want to come through here on legal channels, not illegally. It's not racist. It's just you're here and you don't belong here, and if we don't know who you are, where you came from, what your agenda is, you could be a terrorist for all we know.
Yeah, of course.
And we don't know that because we don't know where you came from, how you got in here, what you're doing. and I don't want to sound like Big Brother here, but everybody in this country needs to be accounted for if you were not a natural citizen, okay?
Sure.
So that's my point. So that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. Not necessarily, I'm just using that as an example, and I'm going to let you lead this because I know you're more passionate about this.
Sure.
But that's an example. Fact, there's an estimated 12 million undocumented workers here. Fact, they are building a fence on the border. Fact, people do look at it as a quote-unquote a racial statement. It's got nothing to do with it. It's just that there's people here, we don't know who you are and what you're doing.
Right. And the one thing that's interesting with that argument, dude, is the whole thing. The case that everybody wants to make with that is always the jobs, that they're doing jobs that people don't want to do. Well, first of all, these employers are not paying what they should be paying these people.
Right.
And so therefore, it's not jobs that people – that's why people wouldn't do those jobs. And it's not fair. It's not fair to have people in those jobs. It should be American citizens doing those jobs. And the truth of the whole matter is that if these people don't want to pay, wages and unemployment and their taxes and all that shit, well, then they shouldn't be allowed to operate that business.
Right, I agree.
That's always been, I used to live out in Salinas, California. It's right outside of Monterey.
Yeah, that's a very high population of Mexican immigrant workers.
Oh, huge, dude. But there was a mall. Okay, there was like Salinas and Monterey and Seaside, California, and then Northridge. The big mall that was there was Northridge Mall, and when you would drive, it was about maybe 10 miles, okay, between Salinas and Northridge, and when you would drive past nothing but lettuce farms and vineyards and all kinds of produce farms and whatnot. And you would drive by and you would just see truckloads of what were clearly illegals, doing work, and that's cool that they're doing the work and all, but you know what? Pay your goddamn taxes, because I was living in that place. It was expensive to live there, and I was getting killed in my taxes paying for these people that were running into the hospital and the doctor's office and whatnot that were not, covered.
Sure.
It was fucking ridiculous.
Right.
So anyway, not to go into that topic, but I'm just saying that I agree with you, man. Throw them out. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out of the fucking country. Period.
Right. All right. Well, so go ahead and lead this thing off.
Well, I have been in just a mood because I've been sitting back, and I know you do this too, sitting back watching the news for about 6 months. And I haven't really, we haven't brought it to the show much. You and I have talked about it off air a lot. But the thing that is driving me bananas, and it reached its point literally today, and this is why I kind of wanted to get all politically today, is this new thing about – do you remember when if you weren't a Bush supporter or if you weren't supporting the war, you were anti-America or whatever?
Well, you're not a patriot, or you're not you're not a patriot.
Right, exactly. And I didn't agree with that. I know you didn't agree with that either.
No, of course not.
Even though I personally was all for the war, and even more personally wish that we would do more violent and disgusting things to win the war.
Okay.
I do. Dude, I have said it 100 times, and I will say it again and again. You take out a family, you put them in the street, you put a grenade in their mouth, you pull the pin. You get everybody in that goddamn city watching this mom get her head blown off, and then they'll act right.
Sure.
Take out the few for the many. You know what I mean? That concept. And I know that's shitty, and I know that's horrific, but that's the way it should be. That war would be over if we would have done that in every city in Iraq.
Or to quote Al Pacino at the end of the movie, Scent of a Woman, if I were the man I were 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, you do that a few times, and what happens? Problem stops.
Sure.
Because they don't want to. You got to be more scary than the other guy. That's how you win a war.
Right.
It's a fear factor.
It is a fear factor.
But whatever. That's not necessarily the point I'm trying to make. I just am drawing an analysis where that drove everybody on the left crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That all you heard for the last 3 years of the Bush administration, well, up until the election run started, was how disgusting the Republicans were because they didn't want people questioning the president and blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you fast forward to now, a year later. Every single time anybody mentions that Barack Obama is a steaming piece of shit now, it's because you're a racist.
Yeah, well, that's the big debate here, especially this past week.
Yeah.
Is that if you disagree with the policies of the Obama administration, the only reason you disagree is because it's a racially motivated disagreement.
Right, and it's making me crazy, dude. And it's gotten to the fact that you happen to see. I think it actually takes place tomorrow, today, Sunday, whatever. What day do they do the talk shows?
Sunday talk shows, yeah. Like Meet the Press and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I guess the Barack Obama is doing them all tomorrow.
Okay.
But he's not going to do Fox.
Of course not.
Well, what is that?
Well, it's been well documented that most political figures who, I don't know, have something to hide or don't want to have to really answer for anything, they will not do Fox News.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's go to a different avenue here. If you and I wanted to grow the CMS,
mm-hmm.
or we wanted to convince people that we did a good show, would we go to the CMS chat room to find people to tell them that?
No.
We'd go to people that don't know what we do.
Right. I agree.
Or people that don't believe in what we do or haven't heard what we've got to say.
Sure.
Clearly, for President Obama, the place for that guy to go if he wants to implement some kind of change of people's opinions would be to go into the teeth of the enemy, which would be Fox News.
Right.
But instead, what are we getting? Everybody at Fox is a racist. Glenn Beck is insane. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, what is going on here? It's exactly the same as it was a year ago, but now it's all right because it's the Democrats attacking the other side?
Sure.
What the fuck, man? It's making me nuts.
All right. Well, I do have the phone lines open, 800-497-5891. And outside of this discussion, even though the Bush administration is over and whatnot, I have yet to hear anybody have a clear, concise reason why they, quote unquote, hated President Bush. And if you're if you're one of those people, I want to hear your explanation. I want to know what it is that Bush did that was so bad that he fucked up everything.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know, because I've never heard anybody just tell me what it is that he did that was just so horrific and that it fucked up everything. Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Hail and kill. Neeley, well, I don't agree with either of you a lot politically. I do agree with you on the border thing. I mean, seriously, if you come across here, it's like, I think I got into this with you guys a couple years ago. Well, I didn't get into it. But remember when you guys were talking about how somebody shot and basically killed a home invader who was an illegal alien, and they were getting all this shit. I said that if you're not documented and you're in this country illegally, you have less rights than a fucking dog. Seriously. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, if you're coming up here, because you got to remember, right now, what's happening in this country? We're in a recession. Everyone's losing jobs, so they need to work those jobs too. I mean, and didn't we outsource a bunch? Years ago, didn't a lot of auto companies and everything outsource jobs to Mexico and whatnot?
Well, obviously, the reason why jobs were outsourced is because they were driven out of this country because they were cheaper to do other places, and they didn't have the tax base in other countries as we have here.
Exactly, and that caused a vacuum. I mean, now the people that you look at this every day: factory workers, auto workers losing their jobs. Another whatever, and that's another, how many mouths to feed because these people have families,
Well, the reason
it's a sort of situation.
Well, the thing is you can have a factory, but if there's no demand for the product you're making, you're going to end up closing down.
And you shouldn't get bailed out for it either.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. How many people use for example, how many people use toasters today? Toasters years ago might have been a hot item or whatever. Today, if you're a factory that your main product is toasters, probably you're not going to be selling toasters like you did 40 years ago. You know what I mean? So eventually that is going to go away because that's no longer a needed product in this country. And it happens. That's just how the cycle of economics go. Things happen. 30 years ago, we didn't have computer companies like a Dell and a Gateway and a HP and whatever. But today, that's a thriving business. So it just happens. That's how the cycle goes.
Sure.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm gonna get off the phone because I kind of want to stay out of this whole political discussion and the stray bullets flying each way. But I just want to say one thing. I don't know about why everyone hated Bush, but I know he did admit back in the 80s he snorted some cold fucking cane.
All right, MOL. All right. So,
You know what the interesting thing is, too? What's the number one state for immigrants? Is it California?
California or Texas? Probably California because they're basically broke because of their policies.
Well, or is it the other way? Are they broke because of that?
They're broke because of their policies.
Of what? Letting immigrants in and letting immigrants take their money out of state without taxing it and all that shit?
And providing all kinds of medical care and things for illegals.
Yeah, and then every one of these illegals that gets knocked up, they get to stay.
Right. On
the government's dime. Yeah, there's a direct correlation to it. So throw them out.
Hail and kill caller, you're on the air.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Doghouse.
Hello, sir. I actually have a few thoughts on a lot of these issues that we're talking
Okay,
about.
well, please do regale us.
Okay, what should I start with? The illegals?
Whatever you want to start with. Go ahead. Jump right in.
Okay, I'll start with illegals, because that was the first thing you brought up. All right, I live in an area that has a lot of illegal aliens in it, because a lot of the chicken plants around here, they employ illegals. And I remember this statistic from a couple of years ago when I first read it. It used to be, I think in 1987, let's say, sometime in the mid-'80s, the average hourly wage for meat processing workers was $19 an hour. And then after the immigration or work visas or whatever, where they weren't throwing everybody out that jumped the border, some sort of policy like that where illegals were given more leniency, I guess. After that policy went into effect in 2007, the average hourly wage for meat processing workers was $9 an hour.
Sure.
So that's less than half of what it was.
Right.
Now, obviously, nobody wants to do that sort of job. That's true. I can agree with that.
Well, hold on. Is that truly true though? Now that we have a 10% unemployment rate,
Sure.
Is that really true?
Exactly. But then look at it this way. Oh, my voice is blowing out for some reason. Anyway, all these people that say it's unfair for illegals to be kicked out of the country or whatever, isn't it unfair for them to be in this country and being paid these shitty wages that used to be $19 an hour, now they're $9 an hour? Isn't it more like exploitation of them? And you want these advocates, these so-called advocates, want them to stay here and continue to be exploited?
Well, the reason let me ask you a question. Why do you think these advocates want these illegals to stay here?
Because their jobs depend on it, obviously.
No, wrong.
No.
Profit.
Well, it's profit, but that's wrong too. The people who are politically driven to keep the illegals here, they look at that as their future constituents.
Right.
Okay, that too.
See, it's like let them stay, because inherently they will probably vote Democrat if they get to the point of being able to vote.
Sure.
So that's the whole idea. Let's flood the country with illegals and people like that, the quote unquote the downtrodden, because they will inherently vote Democrat, and that will just increase their voting base. And
hey, if we're Republicans, guess who cleans our house for cheap?
Yeah, but see that's wrong thinking. That's a bad way of thinking of how things. And the fact is, the reason why wages are so low is because the immigrants are here doing it for nothing.
Because they can get away with paying them nothing.
Right. But if they weren't here,
they're not supposed to be hiring them to begin with.
So it's a snowball effect.
Sure. Okay. Next topic.
Next topic, Jennifer, please.
Next topic, there, Doghouse.
Okay, the racist thing as far as Obama goes. Okay, I don't like when people pull the race card on every little fucking thing. But by the same token, I hang around with people, I listen to what they say, or maybe I just hang around with a bunch of racist hilljacks, to use an Ohio word, hilljack. Maybe I do, but I have to hear all this racist bullshit about Obama. And just coming from the people that I know it comes from, I know it's racially motivated. And I think, okay, maybe a lot of the flack Obama gets is not racist, but definitely the fact that he's a black guy with a funny name, it's not helping him.
Well, I would agree with that, but if somebody voices a well thought out an objection to one of his policies, where's the racial component in that?
Okay, that's part of the problem, because so many of the so many of the objections are not well thought out.
Well, I have heard a lot of well thought out objections, and they go, well, you object because he's a black president. It's just like, no, wait a minute. You mean you?
Well, nobody's actually going to say that.
Well, but no, they did say that. Carter said that this week. That the worst president in the history of the country made that statement, and Bill Cosby basically came out and backed him up.
Right. Sure. Of course, Bill Cosby is an Uncle Tom, you know that.
Well, see? Nice. But if I, as a person, said, hey, listen, I disagree with this whole stupid healthcare debate,
yeah.
And this is the reason why I don't like the government getting into the business of healthcare, because
the government is already in the business of healthcare.
Well,
Medicare.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm talking about having this public option.
Okay. Everybody
was talking about if they actually form a quote unquote a taxpayer supported company, I don't like the fact, this is my opinion as a taxpayer, I don't want my taxes going into a public option, because how come I can't opt out of the public option if I don't want to pay?
Well,
now, where's the racial component there?
Okay, no racial component. Maybe possibly a factual component, but nothing racial.
Okay,
there.
but then they go, well, you don't like it because you don't like Obama and you're a racist.
Well, I don't think it's so much. I haven't heard so much of that as the racial angle. As far as that, it's been more the dumb stuff, the idiots, throwing fits at town hall meetings, or that dumbass hollering, "You lie!" in the middle of Obama's speech or whatever.
Well, I agree that was out of character, and that was not a good representation of this guy or being a quote-unquote Republican. I disagree with that action. But I read an article where a journalist who said what he really was saying was, "You lie, boy."
His being from South Carolina didn't help too much on that angle.
Well, see,
either.
There you go. Well, he's a Southerner. He voted to keep the Confederate flag flying over the Capitol building. And when he said "you lie," he really was saying "you lie, boy."
I don't know if he was saying that, but like I said before, Obama's being black and having a funny name probably wasn't helping matters at all.
But what I'm telling you is there are people out there who are interjecting racial component to something that has no race component at all.
Sure, that's what people do. I mean, they think about one thing, whether it's race or whatever hot button issue it is, so that they're always on the verge of throwing, "Oh, you're racist," or whatever it is.
The problem, though, is that what it's going to end up doing is it's going to end up to where people are like, all right, fuck you, I am racist. That's really where it's going to end up. Because if you can't voice an opinion without being called a racist, well, then you're going to go against the race that I would. I'll tell you that now. I'd be the first one, and I don't have a racist bone in my body. I could give a shit what people are. I have two ways of judging people, cool or asshole. Those are the only two pieces that I need. But I'll tell you what, if I'm going to be called a racist every time that I think Obama's health care plan is a piece of shit, well, fuck you, then I'm a racist. Now what? It gets worse and worse, and I get more enraged by the day when I hear this nonsense.
It just there's so much shit that you hear that actually is racially motivated.
But you know what? This guy is at the very top of the game. He's got the highest position in the world. You know what? If he's got to deal with the fact that there are people that are going to hate him for whatever reason, whether it's race, whether it's his job, whether it's his policies, whatever. I don't care if the guy comes out tomorrow and says, "You know what, man? The sun is really kind of warm today." He's going to have 50% of this country that is going to tell him, "No, it's not." So suck it up, stop whining like a little cunt, and fucking deal with it.
So far, it doesn't seem like he's really whining. It seems like people that support him are whining about it.
Well, that's because he's the president. He doesn't do that. What he does is he puts out edicts which his people push. That's how it works in the presidential thing. When have you ever heard a president say, "Hey, stop saying things about me"? But you'll hear his whole cabinet say it.
Okay, good point. Can I go on to the next topic?
Next topic, please.
Okay, next topic is the whole thing about how come it's okay to bash Bush and how come it's not okay to bash Obama. It kind of cuts both ways. Okay, all the people that said, "Oh, Obama's," remember a few years ago it was all Bush is Hitler and how terrible that was, right? Okay, that's terrible. You can't compare Bush to Hitler. That's ridiculous. But now all of a sudden those same people are saying Obama is Hitler.
Okay, well that doesn't make it right either.
Sure, right. It goes both ways. And now, all the stonewalling that Democrats did back in the Bush years, anything that Bush or any Republican said, they didn't want any part of it. Now now Democrats try to do something. Now Republicans are just standing around. They have no solutions. They're just standing there with their arms folded, going, "No, I don't want to do that."
Well, let me back that up a little bit, Doghouse.
Okay.
Being that obviously Obama is black, and
sure.
a middle class white person again voices their thoughts on one of the policies that's being debated, and they say you're racist. Why wasn't it when Bush was in office that if someone in the black community criticized Bush for whatever it was that they were criticizing him, how come they weren't being racist?
I'm not saying they weren't.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't really cut both ways. It only cuts one way. You know what I mean?
Of course, then you could say that the black people that weren't criticizing Bush probably, well, I guess I'm about to be racist here, but they probably weren't involved enough.
Well, it's neither here nor there, but the fact remains, if you were non-Caucasian, to use a politically correct term, if you criticize Bush, nobody pointed their finger saying you're being a racist because you have an opinion. Nobody did that.
True.
Well, let me go one step further with this. They just had that whole deal with that Van Jones guy. This dude is a radical, man. And I don't care how anybody else puts it, the guy has said some radical shit.
I have to profess ignorance about this.
Well, he was in there. He was all about, that white kids start problems in schools and that black kids. I forget everything that he said, but he was.
Well, he said that the white companies were polluting to kill off the minorities.
Right.
Oh, that's that guy.
That guy.
That guy. But everybody that called for this guy to be fired was being racist because he was a black man.
You know what? The guy's a fucking kook, and whether he's white or black, he's a kook, and he shouldn't hardly.
Yeah, but he's a spokesman for our country. He's being appointed by this president to speak for us.
Okay, yeah, definitely don't agree with that.
Well, now you're being a racist because you didn't agree with having this guy in office.
Yep, I guess I'm a racist along with Chris.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the point.
That's the whole
point. Okay, it's a point taken. All right, can I go to the next topic?
Please, next topic.
Okay, this kind of feeds into that. Everybody wants to argue. Nobody seems to have a solution, unless it's healthcare or whatever. If it's not, they just want to say no, whatever. Republican, Democrat, nobody seems to have a solution. They just argue and nothing gets done.
Right.
I just want to see people try something. Just take a risk, do something instead of just fucking sit around and argue all the time.
Well,
I mean, okay, take healthcare as an example. Do you agree that something has to be done about it?
Absolutely.
Okay. What?
Fire? First thing, here's how you fix the healthcare problem. I'll fix it for you, Doghouse. Put me in the office.
Okay.
First thing you do is you eliminate the frivolous lawsuits. Completely eliminate them.
Tort reform.
Complete and total tort reform, so that there's zero of these frivolous lawsuits. Once you do that, then you can way lower all the premiums for the insurance on these medical people, and then once you've done that, then health care becomes affordable all by itself, the way it was for 50 years until the legal system took over the health care profession.
Okay, now that's a nice start, but how are you going to convince the insurance companies that they can live on less money?
Well, here's another thing that nobody wants to address. Let's make insurance competitive across state lines.
Okay.
Right now, the insurance companies are hamstrung. I heard the anointed one, Obama, say, well, there's only 3 insurance companies in the state of Georgia. Well, the reason there is because they're not allowed to compete across state lines. Let's open up the state lines and let these insurance companies compete in all states.
And that way, there's also not like these haven states where they can get away with more, and they can then base all their operations out of that state, so they can bend the rules or whatever.
How about this, Doghouse? I'm gonna go a different direction than Neeley just went there, but I'm gonna answer your question directly. How about it isn't my problem if the insurance companies can survive or not with less money. That's the new policy. Period.
They're going to make it your problem, though.
Well, that's their problem. If we're going to go to some kind of universal healthcare bullshit that they want to do, then they're not going to be in business anyway.
Well, as far as my understanding goes, it wasn't universal healthcare. You don't have to have it if you don't want it.
But why do I got to pay for it?
Because it's taxpayer supported, Doghouse.
Right. No offense, Doghouse, but I don't give a fuck if your leg is rotting off and needs surgery. I got my own fucking problems to deal with.
Exactly.
So why should I pay in even 1 nickel to that?
Because you'll pay for it anyway.
But
you will wind up paying for it in some way or another. You'll wind up paying for it. If I can't work, you'll have to pay my welfare. If my leg rots off, you'll wind up paying for it out the nose anyway.
But the whole point is, how many times do I got to continue to pay for everybody else's bullshit? You're already paying taxes which go into Medicare, into welfare, into the upkeep of your streets, into fucking your, cleaning your sewers out, into your breathing. Now they want to tax you for not only your gas, which you get taxed out the ass for, but now they want to tax you for where you drive and how much you drive on the roads, even though you're paying tax to be on the roads and fix the roads. Where's the fucking end point?
Well, now, to me, this gets into the whole deal. Well, my situation's fine. Fuck everybody else.
Right. That's the American way.
Now, how is that going to work for everybody in the country? I mean, how is a society going to sustain itself that way?
Well, we mentioned something earlier, and I brought up this James Traficant. He proposed a flat tax. No matter who you are, whether you're a bartender or a multimillionaire or whoever, everybody buys products and services in this country.
Sure.
Everybody does. You got to eat, you got to live, you got to buy stuff. Flat tax would be charged on everything that you purchase. You wouldn't file an income tax or additional. And everybody pays. You know as well as I do, prostitutes don't file a tax return. Well,
so this is a tax on everything you buy, not rather than everything you earn, right?
Right.
Okay.
Everybody buys stuff. Everybody. You got to buy stuff to live. You get a flat, You get, I don't know what it is, just for an example, a 17% or a 20% flat tax across the board.
On everything. It would have to be higher than that. But
well, I'm just using that as an example. But
dude, it would have to be about a 40% bracket.
And
that's what it would have to be.
And everybody pays it. Everyone. Illegal immigrants, if they're here, people who don't claim their money on taxes, like bartenders and waitresses, they don't claim all their tips and stuff. But they still have to buy food and clothes and housing and cars and gas and everything. So everybody contributes.
And no loopholes. None. Stop that nonsense. The only loophole you get is that you get a discount at the place you work, basically.
That's fine, but then it gets into the whole point of people who make a whole shit pile of money, and we could get into the whole deal about how
but the thing is people who make a shit pile of money buy expensive stuff, and the more expensive stuff they make, you get 40% of that.
But let's go even further than that, though, for a minute. If they're making that much more money than the rest of us are, so what? That's them achieving where they're trying to get to.
If they bought a $5 million mansion, 40% of that goes to taxes.
Yeah.
Sure.
See what I mean?
But Sure, but then we get into the whole deal about how wages for the top 1% have grown so ridiculously exponentially higher than for the the bottom 50% or whatever that statistic is.
But
I think the number is like from 1980, the top 1% earned, or the CEOs earned 40%, 40 times more than their lowest employees now, and now the figure's like 530% more.
Dude, at what point do you decide that you want the government out of your fucking business? That's really what this all comes down to. You're letting the government into every bit of your business. You want the government to regulate how much of your money goes out based on how much you earn and what they think is a good number, and let them have say in your health care and shit. Before too long, they're going to be handing you a menu of what you're allowed to eat, what you're allowed to think, what you're allowed to say.
You're never gonna get them entirely out of it.
Well, I know you're not going to ever get them entirely out of it, but I'm not willing to let them have more of it.
Okay.
I don't want them having one more ounce. Dude, as it is, it makes me fucking cringe when I hear this stuff that's being spouted about cameras all over every city in the country, man. It's like, you know what? I don't want to be on your fucking camera. I didn't get it. I didn't move to your city. I noticed it today in my stupid city that they got cameras on every fucking traffic light now. It's like, when did I give permission to be fucking photographed every step of the way?
Okay, now we're getting into Big Brother territory, and I definitely don't agree with that.
Right. So you're that again is a government-run thing.
Sure.
So
and it's being funded by these governments that claim that they don't have any money, and that are claiming that they need to help everybody and coddle everybody and give them care and give them food and shut the fuck up. Get out there and work like the rest of us. Everybody.
And that gets back to work what? Work where?
Work where? How about you throw out the 12 million people that are here illegally, and what percentage of the unemployment is 12 million? Probably a large, but probably
it's like 80% or something.
So it's a large percent. That's a lot of jobs that could be filled by this 10% of unemployment.
But then, are the companies going to want to have to jack the rates and jack the wages back up?
Well, of course.
Well, dude, nobody wants to give away more money, but if that's the cost of doing business, you either do it or you don't. That's what these fucking bailouts did to ruin this country. What these bailouts did was proved that if you fail and you don't have good business ethics and you don't have a good business model, it really doesn't matter if it's worth enough to the government.
And we've already found out that the bailouts were what you might call a limited success.
Yeah, a limited success. I'll tell you what, I would have rather burned my paycheck for 6 months than given away the 6 months of taxes.
They were successful for a few people, but in the grand scheme of things, had no effect.
Who was it successful for?
Yeah. Who won on this deal?
It kept a few white-collar people in their jobs.
So what?
For your finance company.
It was a monumental failure. The cash for clunkers was a failure. All of this was a failure. It just got ate up by people who just pissed that money away.
Well, now here we go back to say Neeley, that you're high up in Morgan Stanley or one of those places.
Okay.
Hey, it's a success for you because you kept your job.
Yeah, but that's just one guy. How did it benefit the country?
That's what I'm saying.
It didn't. So it's a failure.
Success for just a very few people, and
so
otherwise had no effect.
What was the number? 680?
No, it was 870 billion.
870 billion. Did I not read right that they could have paid off every single mortgage in the United States with that money and still given back 500 million of it? Did I not read that?
Yes, something to that effect.
Something to that effect. Now, if the entire country, to put this in perspective, Doghouse, instead we gave it to an insurance company and a failed mortgage company and
banks.
And banks and all these people with failed business models. That's what we gave it to. If we would have
incompetent jackasses, basically.
Okay, but if we would have instead basically wiped the slate clean of every mortgage in the country. Now, I don't know if you have a mortgage or not. I do have a mortgage. It's $1,200 a month. If I could put $1,200, my one person, my one family, if I could put $1,200 more a month back into the economy, and everybody in my city could do the same, and everybody in my state could do the same, do you really think we'd be having economic problems in this country?
Well, I heard just a minute ago you were talking about how just so, fuck everybody else. You don't want to pay for anybody else's stuff. And now you're talking about buying everybody's mortgage.
I'm totally against the bailouts. I'm 100% against it. I was against it totally.
But what he's talking about is since they did put the bailouts, wouldn't it have been smarter to bail out the individual rather than just give it to these conglomerates that just sucked the money up and it went nowhere?
And they're conglomerates that have a proven failed ability to do business.
Okay, since they did spend the money, yes, you're right.
Yeah, dude, believe me, in the grand scheme of things, I didn't want, and I know we have people that listen that work at car places and stuff, I didn't want anybody bailed out. Let GM fail, let Ford fail, let AG or whatever that was fail, let Fannie Mae fail, let the mortgage industry fail, let it all fail, because it will start over.
Somebody will come in and build a better model and take its place.
But, dude, even if it takes 10 years to rebuild it and it's tough times, do you want to fix the economy or do you want to Band-Aid it?
In the meantime, people are sitting around for 10 years going, why did the government do this, blah, 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 and they're all catching shit. And guess what? They ain't getting reelected.
Well,
but you know what? That's just the breaks of the game.
Sure.
It's always, no matter what you do, there's going to be people that complain.
Right. But ultimately, the government gets blamed for things. So, of course, they're acting in their own self-interest, as usual.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's really the politicians that are causing a lot of this problem.
Sure.
So they need to be rooted out and replaced.
Okay. Now, can I get to this one last topic?
Last topic.
Last topic. Can I recommend a book for you guys?
Okay.
It's called True Enough, and it's by a guy with a funny, foreign-sounding name, Fareed Manjoo. But
that guy works for Al-Qaeda.
True enough. And here's the basic premise of it. He's talking about how your media outlets have become so splintered that people can take whatever their point of view is and find some sort of opinion leader that holds the same view and will feed them things they want to believe. So that it's harder and harder to find actual facts anymore, because I'm convinced that you're more likely to be lied to by somebody, somebody in the media than you are by a politician.
Which is why all the newspapers are failing, because the American public is smart enough to realize that what they're getting in their newspapers is probably false. So they're not going to spend their $1 a day to buy a newspaper that's just feeding them bullshit. So
well, not so much that, because they can get it online for free.
Well, but of course they can. But what I'm saying is if the newspaper, the news companies, I should say, whether it's the paper or online, was actually on the up and up and giving you, like you said, the truthful news, people would not have a problem spending that $1 for their newspaper or getting it online or whatever, because basically everybody distrusts the media now.
Right, because it's not fact anymore, it's opinion, whatever the opinion is, whether it's, and by the way, how come cable TV is flourishing with, whether it's Keith Olbermann or Glenn Beck or whatever opinion maker you care to go along with.
Sure.
So you got all these people picking their sides, picking their sources, and nobody's talking about any facts.
Which is why I started this whole thing off with I want facts, not opinion.
Yes, exactly. I want facts too. I want facts, and I just want people to try something.
Well, I'm with you there. But I'm kind of with you there, because I don't want them to try. I don't want them to try things that are not grounded in actually helping the people that are funding it. I don't give a fuck who gets reelected. I don't care if it's Obama. I don't care if it's the late Ted Kennedy. I don't care whose name is on the ballot, as long as they come forth with the actual goal of making things better for the people. Actually,
okay.
Dude, I'm a Nazi when it comes to writing my stupid senators and congressmen. I write them all the freaking time. I can't believe I haven't been audited or something yet, because I constantly am hammering them with mail. about things I disagree with and don't agree with. And I don't know if you've ever done that, but anymore, it used to be when you would write these guys, they would actually take the time to read your letter and write it back. Now you get a form letter that just says, I really appreciate your opinion on, and you can see where the type changes, where the thing queries the database and finds the answer. I appreciate that you looked into our healthcare reform ideas. We look forward to serving you. But it's all horseshit. Nobody's reading anything. They're not paying attention to their people.
Actually, we did an experiment in high school with this in 1994. I don't even remember what topic was. I wrote to my senator, who at the time was Joe Biden, and I got a letter back that said, "Dear constituent, thank you for your interest in some topic that was completely unrelated to what I'd written him about."
Right, of course.
Of course. So I don't know how much that's actually changed.
None.
It's probably gotten worse.
These guys never see it. I'm positive they never see it now.
We had to, take our responses into school and show them off, and the teacher was like, "You know what? All of you that got responses, just feel glad for it." Yeah. So I'm sure not much has changed in that area.
You know who gets the response? The one fucking asshole that gets to come and sit at the State of the Union every year. I got this letter from a girl named Kim in fucking bullshit Montana, and Kim is sitting over there next to my wife. Give Kim an applause.
The cat that gets paid $17,000 a year to be an aide gets these letters.
Yeah, of course. It's horrendous.
Okay, that's about all I've got.
All right, Doghouse. We hope we enlightened you and broadened your horizons.
You probably have, and I hope I've done the same.
All right.
Or something.
All right.
That's the other thing about opinions. Nobody's ever going to change anybody else's opinion.
That's true. That's why I like to work with fact.
Right.
Okay. Good enough.
All right. Well, hail and kill.
Hail and kill. Fuck you, pal.
All right. So there it is. Boy, that flew by. We did that for an hour?
No, it's about 45 minutes, almost an hour.
Next week we start at midnight.
Yeah. Here's our boy Jim Traficant on jobs.
All right.
Mr. Speaker, the Medicare Trust Fund had its first deficit in history, and the reason given was payroll taxes were less than expected. Now, how could this be if there have been 8 million new jobs? Could it be that maybe these jobs are very suspect? Check this out. Screw supervisor, nut former, ball sorter, needle straightener, bucket chucker, slitter, creaser, slaughter, operator. Don't laugh. These are all jobs listed by the Department of Labor, and if that's not high-tech enough for you, how about sucker machine operator? How about carcass splitter? Just imagine if we create more sucker machine operators and carcass splitters, we'll even balance the budget. Now look, if anybody asks my opinion, I'd have to say beam me up, and I think these screw supervisors all work for the Internal Revenue Service. Happy taxes.
Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Hail and kill. I took some Benadryl about half an hour ago, and good stuff. Listen, man, healthcare. There's a lot of stuff in that healthcare bill, dude. Have you read it?
I've read through some of it. I haven't read the whole 1,000-some pages on it.
Yeah, well, go to page 1004, and you'll find that Real ID is in it. It's Class 2 RFID.
Yeah, they want to chip everybody.
Right. Well, not only is it in the healthcare, it's in the swine flu quarantine.
Yeah.
That they're doing, and that's been told from state officials. So that's fact. If you would have told me 2 years ago that cocksucker named Obama was going to be president.
Facts now. Facts, my friend.
Well, hey, you know what? That might accidentally be a fact. They got that guy. Oh, never mind. I'll pull
Chicago.
Yeah, I'll pull that up for next time. But and then you got Nancy Botox sewer slut Pelosi. If you'd have told me that, and bend over Barney Frank, if you'd have told me that all three of these people were going to destroy our country, or
don't forget Harry Reid.
Well, yeah, I'm not forgetting him, but I couldn't think of a good nickname for him. If you'd have told me that they'd have the ability to destroy our country, I'd laughed at you. A year ago, if you would have told me that I was going to be an administrator on a militia site, I'd have called you crazy.
Yeah.
It's time for people to wake up, and some of the callers I've noticed, they're kind of awake, but they're not seeing the facts because they're not looking for them.
Well, it takes a little work, though. It takes a little work.
It does. If you'd have told me a year ago that I was going to make one of my domains into a news site, I'd told you were crazy. KWTFstudio.com has a whole shitload of news about all this. I'm also building PatrioticSpace.com, a MySpace for patriots.
Hey, are you getting free plugs?
I am. It's only like 2:15 in the morning, and I'm on Benadryl, so I'm sorry for my actions. I apologize.
Well, did you get that through the health care bill, or did you buy that out of your pocket?
Do what? No, dude.
All right, so what's your point there, Robert? We're going to wrap this thing up. Chris has got to go to bed.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to call, and I had a big, long rant, and I'm kind of at that Benadryl moment right now to where, can you do this again?
Well, yeah, we'll do that.
Well,
yeah, do it again,
since Robert, since you're working on your site and you're making it a whole bunch of news stuff, what is the URL again, and what's over there?
KWTF.
All right, dude. Well, it's been a good little debate. Thanks for checking out the Best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.